First podcast. We are parents.
We are.
We share 3 children, and we're married and happily married. And we're going to tell you those little slow nod, babe.
No, it was just,
Slow nod.
it's funny how you just like, we're married, happily
Yeah,
married.
I had to let you know.
We are, though.
So we're going to talk about parenting today. And you had a very good list that you sent me when we decided to do this podcast. And so you sent a list. So on the top of that list was conscious parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Under that list, you had a bunch of subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
So what does conscious parenting mean to you?
Conscious parenting to me means being aware of how your attitude, basically your inner talk and everything, how that rolls over into your parenting, into your children's day, life, everything.
So you gave me examples last night when we were talking about this, about when you wake up, how your attitude or how your mood is when you wake up, and then you go and wake the children up and get them on their daily routine. What were those ideas?
Well, it's just, I noticed it makes a difference when I go wake the kids up with a good attitude and I'm happy and excited to start the day, versus when I'm grumpy and I don't want to be up myself. Who wants to wake up that early?
I mean, the kids feed off of that energy.
Kids feed off of it. Yeah.
They do. I know that even in the car ride, if I initiate conversation and try to initiate asking open-ended questions with Ishma, our son, he then will stay up the whole time and will be active in a conversation or ask questions about something. But if I'm in the car and I'm really groggy and tired and just quiet and just don't say anything, then he will just fall asleep, tilt over his head to the side, and I'll be waking him up in the line at school.
Waking him up and drop off.
Yeah, it is. And I want you to just rapid fire how you were before last night. You were on a roll last night.
Yeah, we should have
You
just
were in the
recorded
zone
it last night.
You were in the zone last night. Really?
Yeah, no, it does. It just makes a big difference. And like rolling into like the next thing on the list was projecting, how you not only like you set the tone for the day, but you set the tone for a lot of things, and how family experiences go, how family dinners can go, all of those things. Like your energy can literally set the tone. Even if your kids are like, having a bad day or they're sad about something, you can still help flip that around for them.
Definitely. I know when you pick up the kids, again, how excited are you to see them? Can help to...
Not always asking the same questions, not always just being like, hey, how was your day? Sometimes you just ask like, hey, how are you? Like it makes a big difference, I feel like. Or like asking what was your, like what happened today, instead of just like, how was your day? Always the same question. I feel like they always get that same question from everybody, So when you switch it up and you ask them something else, it actually makes them like think about it instead of just being like, oh, good.
I've heard from different seminars I've been at that you learn the best when you're laughing or having fun. And that's why a lot of times in school when I was young, I don't think I learned very good. But you learn the best when you're having fun and laughing and you're engaged. And so a question I've tried when I pick up Ishma is I say, hey, what was your favorite part of the day?
Yeah, that's when I ask the girls a lot too.
Because then they get to they feel like, oh, they have some type of input on what the, on what their day was, and they remember that funnest part of the day. So you get a good story of what was their favorite part of the day. I like that one. And then, but attitude overall, when I used to work a lot with, I still work with youth, but when I worked with youth in different settings, and it was a therapeutic setting, and the parents that were the most frustrated, the most mad, that were always had an attitude or where they weren't very pleasant when they dropped off their child or whatnot, that child feeds off that energy and and they display those same type of attitudes as the parent does.
100%. Yeah. Because we project onto our children more than just like our energy or our attitude, but, like thoughts and beliefs and how to handle stressful situations and how to handle anxiety and all those things, like how we handle it and how we're able to cope with things in a positive way, that projects onto our children too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're flipping off the handle, it really shows them that that's an okay way to deal with that's something.
Acceptable. Instead of teaching them like, hey, when I'm stressed or when I'm anxious or I'm going through something that, I don't know, uncomfortable situation, this is how I can deal with it and still come out, all right. So
also, I think it's huge because I've had multiple experiences where you've seen teachers in school settings have a hard time, a lot of times, sometimes apologizing, where if they do something wrong, they have a hard time apologizing. The kid, they're supposed to be able to apologize. But I think that's also important as a parent as well, to, if you do handle a situation in not a correct way, being able to apologize and just being able to just own it and apologizing to the whole family. I know that I had to do it recently, but you have to be willing to apologize, especially if you want them to be able to apologize,
right,
or be able to feel remorse for something.
Sure, admit when you're wrong. Admit like, hey, I made a mistake, but I'm apologizing for it. I'm gonna make it right. So yeah, it makes a big difference in everything, attitude, projecting, 100%. And encompassing that conscious parenting.
Well, and hopefully if they can see that it's okay to apologize because you're apologizing, so they can see it's okay to do that, they can feel comfortable. It won't be taboo for them to admit that they were wrong.
Yeah.
That's a big
we
problem.
We all make mistakes.
It's a big problem with our society in general, is people hold on to a belief their whole life, even if they know it's been proven wrong, just because it's what their belief was. They don't want to give up that belief.
Yeah. It becomes almost like ingrained in us.
Or a way that they act, a way that you see adults act in certain ways, and it's because they were never able to apologize or never able to say, you know what, I'm wrong. Let me take a different route or do something different.
As our kids have grown, I feel like, we have grown as parents, as people, like with them. They've taught us a lot as well through our parenting journey.
Yeah,
it's a cool thing.
It's when I used to coach a lot of basketball, I was actively coaching. Then when I'd go and play, I played different because I would coach the game, and you're always telling these people to do this or be in this position, be here, do this special technique. Then when you play, you're thinking as a coach, and it's kind of like parenting. When you parent, it's like coaching. And then you go out and live life more, and you're thinking, oh, let me use some of the parenting tactics I used on the kids to try to apply to my life. Yeah. I found a parallel in that. Yeah.
There is definitely, when you think about it.
When you say authority versus teacher on that list you had, what does that mean?
So I think too often, especially in our society, parents are too authoritative, meaning like almost taking on like a dictatorship role, like you have to listen to me like because I said so, instead of being like, well, let's like talk about this. Let's break it down. Let's process it together. Like, why do you think that this is the best decision? Not just because I say so, but like actually teaching them how you came to that conclusion, so that when they get older and they need to problem solve and they need to think of what's the right thing to do, or why should I, choose the right thing, choose the right path.
So basically processing a situation with them instead of just dictating a situation. And I think, and stop me if I'm wrong, but it isn't like you let the kid make ultimate decisions, of course, that are unsafe or something
obviously.
but it's you guiding them through those decisions and leading them through the decisions so that it becomes their decision as well. And they're doing it then for the right reasons. We used to say, because if you just scare a kid or impose your will on a kid, then when you're not there, then what's the decision that they're going to make? Because you're not there to impose your will. You're not there to scare them out of doing something. But if you can teach them during that time and go through the process.
Going through the process is huge, because as you're teaching them, they may not agree with the ultimate decision, but hopefully they'll at least understand.
For example, let's say the 11-year-old wants to go to the football game, the high school football game, with her friends alone and just be dropped off
Get dropped off
at the high school football game in a city of 1 million people. It really doesn't matter what type of city you live in, because anything can happen in any place. But in a city of 1 million people, where it's not like it's a really, really tight-knit community where everybody knows everybody, right? So if somebody sees, your daughter's there, then they're looking out for them. Or it isn't like the village mentality. This is a big city. So just to drop off our daughter at a high school football game alone with her friends, and then she wants us to do that, instead of just saying, no, I forbid that, or there's no way that I'll ever let that happen, or anything like that. Going through the decision-making process of, well, what does this look like safety-wise? And
do you really think it's a good idea?
And being able to walk through your kids. And some people may be thinking, well, my kid would never do that. Well, maybe it's steps to get there. Because, of course, if you don't have that parenting style from the very beginning, it may be just foreign to have that type of discussion, or have that type of back and forth, real discussion, where you're trying to progress or process through this situation with your kid. And so, but if with time and more in practice, it'll get easier. But then at the end of those conversations, or specifically with going to the game, how was she able to, I guess, how was she able to come around to the realization of the safety issue, and how maybe she could have just as much fun with you there in the stands, just overlooking things. She could still go hang out with her friends. It's it's making those compromises, right? It's like, I'll be there, but it isn't like you have to sit right by me and stay right by me the whole time.
Right, of course.
I can see down there. I can see you guys running around having fun and things. But it's a compromise to where I'm just not at home, just hoping that nothing's happening.
Right. Yeah. So they're present with her, but allowing her to go and be with her friends.
And so that's a like authority. Doesn't like an authoritative style doesn't allow for compromise as much.
Right. It's like, I don't know. I feel like when I was a kid, I heard that reasoning a lot, like because I said so. No, because I said so. Because kids, especially little kids, they ask why a lot. Why? But why? Even if you ask something and it's no, but why?
Sure.
Because I said so. So sometimes that carries on to being when they're older, they take what you're saying as you just being this mean parent.
Sure.
Instead of oh, they didn't, I'm sure, you know, that there's a reason behind it, because there's always a reasoning behind it.
Sure.
We've talked about it before. We've processed. This is always how we've done it. So I don't know. I just feel like being able to have open discussions about how you get to your answer of yes or no, or maybe at another time, instead of just saying because I said so.
Well, and kids, even though, yes, they're your children, they're younger, but they're still people, right? They're still people. And I remember when in parenting classes, one of the things I really like to point out is, if your boss at your job, if you have a boss, or if your customer, whomever, right? If they were to say to you, if you ask them a question about something, they say, "Oh, because I said so," or just do it because, you know, because I'm the boss, you're just going to do it. Like, how would that make you feel? Does that make you feel part of the process or in control of your life at some point? Yeah. And so I always try to sometimes, and I'm not always perfect at it, of course, but I try to approach the things as if, you know, how would I want a hypothetical boss talking to me, right?
Right. I like how you bring that up too, because I'm not perfect either. Sometimes I'll catch myself still saying, no, go do this now because I said so. And I should be like, actually, I want you to do this now because this. So, you know, I'm not perfect by any means.
It's tough.
But I can tell the difference when I'm like in conscious parenting to when I'm not, when I'm just like reactive and, you know, having a bad day myself.
It's a real training. It's a taxful thing to be conscious.
Right. Yeah.
To really be conscious.
Yeah. Like, by any means not saying I'm perfect, but I notice a difference is kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. You have to conscious parent.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly what has to happen.
Yeah, and you know, the last thing, which kind of goes into the authority versus teachers, reason versus fairness, which you see a lot in younger kids, but even with our youngest, who's 11, she still brings up things like that a lot because her brother and sister are older and they get to do things, and she's like, well, why can't I do that? Well, you're younger. Well, that's not fair. Sometimes it's not fair.
So then you have to have that discussion of the age appropriateness and what they were allowed to do at this time, and maybe what the situation is and how situational something is or may be. Those things are really important to always then break down. You used the example the other day of of new shoes.
Right. Yeah, because, you know, everybody's feet grow different rates. Yeah, maybe everybody always gets a new pair of shoes when school starts or whatever. But throughout the year, everybody's feet grow different times. Shoes get worn out differently. Kids are in different sports or whatever it may be. So throughout the year, everybody gets new shoes at different times. When they get new shoes at different times, some kids think it's not fair because they want new shoes too. So
then that's back to explaining, well, right.
Your shoes are still good. They still fit you. When your feet outgrow those shoes, then we'll get you new shoes. So it's just giving that reason, explaining, and hoping that they understand not everything's fair.
Well, and being able to give them the grace of saying, right, they're kids, and they're young kids, they don't know. I've seen examples where parents just berate their kids and do, you know, how stupid are you to, you know, dummy, you should know, you know, his shoes don't fit, yours do. Or I've heard parents just cuss their kids out, talk crazy to their kids. And again, I always think back, like, how would you feel if someone was talking like that to you? And that's really tough. How some kids have to endure. And again, in the times where I lose my temper or I feel myself getting upset like that, trying to consciously remember right? That these are people. They're not just little people these are real people, and they have emotions, and they feel the same way that you feel, but at even a deeper level because they're younger. So they're hurt even more by things.
Not only are they can be hurt more, but like traumas, like, I don't know. I just remember some of the like weirdest memories. Like, why do I remember that from when I was like 5 or 6? But you just don't know like what is going to stick with a kid and affect them for their entire lives. So
even something
like
that isn't really a big deal to you as a parent.
Yeah.
Like later on, like a week ago or a week on, you forget about it. But if you yelled at the kid for something specific and really hurt them, damaged them in some way, then like literally that could be their memory forever. Just like you're saying, that's what they can think back on when they think about things, and that's scary as a parent to think about. The time that they did something silly at the theme park, and you scolded them really loud in front of people or something like that. That every time they go to a theme park, they could think of that, and it could kind of ruin their
twirly ride or whatever. They're going to equate it back to that memory of when they got yelled at and embarrassed as a child.
So, and that's really, it's tough to be a parent because you have to think about those things always. You have to be thinking about, I guess, being conscious of also not creating traumas. Like that's real.
Only human, and trying to be perfect in this imperfect world.
Sure. Well, just trying to filter it out as much as possible.
Sure.
Right? Because it's important.
It is. And just, I don't know. For me, I always just wanted to make sure that my kids knew that I could be their safe space through anything. If they needed to say anything, express anything.
Sure.
So being able to like admit when I messed up, apologize for how I reacted or not following through on something is huge because, like you said, they're humans, they're people, and they deserve that same respect as you would give to an adult.
100%. 100%. So now's the time. You think it's time we're going to try to end out all these podcasts. We're going to end all these podcasts with just a little bit of closing thoughts or the closing thesis here.
Yeah, we know we covered a lot, but just, I don't know, coming back to that conscious parenting and being able to admit and teach your kids through your own faults, and grow from those things, grow with each other.
Sure. And I think I took from this conversation, it's something you said at the very end. You said being able to not only be conscious, but then to also being able to apologize again and being aware. But the biggest thing is how you said being their safe space. How can I be more as a dad? How can I be more of my child's safe space? So that'll be the challenge here, is being their safe space. Well,
I like that.
So there it is.
It's a good one.
So there it is.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. 001. 001.